Really, Kobe, could you turn Lou's mic on real quick here? Because Lou just said something fascinating that I want to go ahead and tell us again, Lou. Say it again.
What did I say?
Oh, you said not the only one?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals?
But my thoughts is that here's one thing I guarantee that no one outside the coaching staff knows, the teammate knows, the locker room knows, no one else knows. What I just heard from you is plausible, but it's 110% conjecture. And so,
why do you use big words like that?
I know conjecture is part of this. It's part of the program. No, I'm not saying that. I think your thought process is well-founded. I think what you're saying is plausible. The only thing I can guarantee is that no one outside that locker room really knows what's going on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is just you. I'm putting two and two together and how this has been how it's been done, and what we know from past situations.
Yeah, our math is different. Here's what I do know, and this was really telling to me, Steve.
Yep.
First of all, in fantasy, I have the young Harrison kid as my receiver, and recently, since Brissett's been in, there's some chemistry there.
Yes.
And so I read an article on Marvin Harrison Sr.
Yes.
There was an article this week, and
Josh Weinfurst, yeah.
He said it as clear as possible without saying anything, basically saying, I don't know what that offense is about. I'm not sure what's going. He went out of his way to question the offensive scheme. And when a dude like that, an all-pro wide receiver, father of a player on the team, says that, I think we have to listen that there's something going on.
And they ran the Colts ran a complex offense when he was there with Peyton Manning. That wasn't a just go run a route and we'll throw it to you. That was a complex offense that he ran. And I think he looks at this Cardinals offense kind of like I do. It's a simplistic offense. And things to that effect. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm putting everything together here to get to the point where it's like, Kyler Murray is going to be the guy that takes the blame for what this offense has done this year. And he's done here in Arizona. Unfortunately, we're looking for another quarterback now here in Arizona.
You know that?
It just didn't work out. No, I'm just saying.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just saying.
I'll be interested to see what happens when it all comes out.
Lou, he doesn't have a foot injury. They're making it up. I'll just tell you. They're making up this foot injury. It's garbage.
That's also conjecture, I think. But time will tell. We'll all know.
You have a sprained leg. You have a Liz Frank injury. The first thing they do to you is they put you in a walking boot. You know what you don't do? You don't go out and practice and say you're a game time decision. That's not what you do in those situations.
What you're accusing is plausible. I'm not saying you're washed up and that you're out of your mind. I'm not saying that.
No,
it's plausible. Yeah. But I just have to wait for substantiation. What I think you and I will agree on, and I think that any Cardinal fan will agree, that the offense looks healthier under Brissett than it did before.
Well, you brought up Marvin Harrison Jr. Just in these 3 games. Balls aren't being thrown to where he should be, and he's not there, right? He doesn't look lost in this offense anymore. I'm just saying him.
He looks confident.
Then you add Garrett Wilson into that with his, he caught that ball in stride. When was the last time you saw a Cardinals receiver catch a ball in stride with confidence and make a 50-yard completion, right? You see an improvement, like you said, confidence, but guys are allowed to run their routes. I questioned openly if Marvin Harrison Jr. knew what to do when Kyler Murray started scrambling. And Kyler Murray scrambles a lot. And I was like, I don't think he knows what to do when that happens. I think he gets lost out there and stuff to that effect. Well, he doesn't have to scramble with Jacoby Brissett. Just run your route and the ball's going to be there. I think that's the side of things that I like to see.
Well, when a quarterback breaks off, and starts to scramble, all routes are off now. Yes. And so a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who's played football all his life, he knew what to do when he was in 6th grade when the quarterback got out of the pocket, and he hasn't forgotten it.
Well, he wasn't doing it.
But to me, and I think you'll agree, there's something not clicking between that quarterback and that young man Harrison.
Absolutely.
Something ain't right?
I think there's a disconnect between the coaching staff and that quarterback, which leads to the disconnect with the receivers and stuff. I think there was a disconnect all around. Now you get a veteran quarterback in there that's like, hey, there's no disconnect now. You just go do this route, and I'll get you the ball. It's amazing to see the difference in there. And I've always liked Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback. I don't think he can start for you for 18 games and you're going to have a ton of success. But he also doesn't have a big fall off either.
Yeah, I mean,
he'll struggle at times, but he's not going to go from what he's doing now and then all of a sudden look like he's never thrown a football before.
Darnold, Mayfield. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have been retread.
Yeah.
And how do they excel after the system, number one,
Yep.
and their ability to process defenses when they sit on the sideline for 5 years like Darnold did, and struggled. Again, he could have curled up and said, "This ain't for me," and done the liner and walked off, okay? But he didn't. He stuck with it. And so what I see with Brissett and the Cardinals is positive, and I would hope that they have a positive effect this week in a game where we're going to see two defenses squaring off against one another.
Our Seahawks, if they're not the best defense, and you do all the DVOA stuff, we'll talk about that when we look at that game here coming up in the next hour. But I mean, you do the DVOA, but I mean, if Seattle's not the number one defense in the league, they're definitely top 3 probably. Oh, they're 4? That actually surprises me.
Based on DVOA, however,
the front 7 are
the
just
proprietor
amazing.
of DVOA, Adam Schatz, was on Gil Alexander's VSIN show this morning. And it was the 85 Bears, the 92, I want to say, Redskins, and then one other.
It had been the Ravens,
and then
right?
one other team.
One of those Ravens Super Bowl
that
teams?
were the top 3 after 9 weeks. The top 3 DVOA defenses of all time. 4th is Seattle.
Yeah, see that.
So of all time, he's saying.
All time.
So
that third one had to have been that Ravens, one of those Ravens teams that won the Super Bowl, because they were as good as that 86 Bears team.
No, they weren't.
Yeah,
but they were good. Ray,
I love how
Ray Lewis gets discounted for me.
And then I listened to Dale because he was on that team for a little bit there with 3 games or whatnot, and he talks about he puts them in a whole other pedestal on their defensive side.
The Baltimore
as well for Baltimore, yeah.
Oh yeah, they were good. They were almost good as the Bears.
Remember, Lou's a Bears fan, everybody. I'm a Ravens fan.
No,
So
not
that.
really. I'm not a fan of any. I don't have any. I don't have any tie to any team. Although I grew up, my dad was Scale Sayers. Grew up in Omaha. Went to Omaha Central. I'm an Omaha kid. It was natural to be a Sayers fan. When you're in Omaha, you either root for the Vikings, the Bears, or the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I rooted for all.
And there you go. So I appreciate you coming on a little early there.
Thanks for letting me horn in on your segment.
Oh, no, it's all good because, I mean, like I said, it's all just opinion at this point because we have 0 facts. We'll find out stuff later on. I just don't like the way it's been handled. I've been railing on it for weeks and all of that. And it is what it is. And now we can move on from it because he's on IR for 4 weeks at least, so we don't have to worry about it.
If they win a couple games, the Cardinals, and we'll quit talking about this, start talking about whatever else looks good.
If they go out and beat Seattle this week, we will not talk about
who's
the quarterback
going to start
thing
at running
anymore.
back. Tell me that.
Well, Trey Benson, we just had that talk as well. Trey Benson, they were talking about him possibly coming back this week, but then he didn't practice yesterday.
Yesterday was Wednesday. No big deal.
That's the thing. It's not the end of the world. I do worry a little bit, though, because he's coming off of injury. You'd like to see him practice all week. Today, and especially tomorrow, but today's a big day. If he's no practice today, I would lean towards not playing this weekend. Otherwise, it's going to be Michael Carter, D. McCarry, and that young kid, Bam Knight, again, going into this game for that. And I think Trey Benson will be a huge increase, if he's on this team going into the Seattle game this weekend. I think it does some favors on that side. So we'll have to watch practices from that, but that's the unknown. But when we come back, Lou joins us for his weekly segment here as well. Of course, Lou, Gamblu.com, VSIN Network. And my goodness, gambling is rearing its ugly head. I'll ask Lou specifically because this is an industry he's been in. He was in it back when it was like, you did it in smoky rooms in the back and you kind of hid it from everybody. Now it's out in the open. Now it's too open, in my opinion. And we'll talk about that coming up. Plus, look at last week's UFC matchup, this week's UFC matchup. Get into NFL talk as well. So come on back, folks. The main event with Uncle Lou coming up next.
VSIN.com.
And we're back here. Main events Thursdays means this guy, Uncle Lou. Made it back in this week. Last couple weeks remote. We love you either way. It's fine either way. But Thursday this week, so we're without weigh-ins here coming up this week and everything. But before we get into everything here, right? Tell everybody VSIN Network. You talked about them. You're a contributor on a bunch of those shows there on VSIN Live, etc. Gamblu.com is where you're at. Tell everybody where they can find you, what you do, and just what a great guy you are in general.
Well, I'll pass over the great guy part. What I will say is that I've been involved in sports opinion making or betting on select sporting events for over 40 years, since I was in high school, really. There was a time when I looked like there was a plume like Pigpen around me because it was illegal. And in the last 7 years or so, it's come out. It's been way better. People want to talk to me and hear my opinions. That said, there's other complexities that have come with legalization. That's another subject. The way to find out about me is to go to my webpage, gamblu.com. We put it up. The webpage was created 2 years ago. And you'll see this week's UFC blog. UFC runs 44 to 46 weeks per year. So mostly you'll see UFC blogs, but you'll see NFL blogs as well. The top band above the About Gamblu tells you about me, testimonials on me. The Sports I Work About Business podcast is the podcast for the UFC, NFL, NHL, College World Series. The most important tab there, however, is the San Xavier Mission tab, which is a charity close to our heart. We've supported it before Gamblu was even around, since college, actually. It's south of Tucson, Arizona, here in Arizona, oldest mission in the country. Steve always lets me bring it up, talk about it, talk about the great work they're doing there. And if we scroll down, you can go right to the link to San Xavier, find out about it yourself, even donate if you so choose. And I want to say, not only do I appreciate Steve bringing me on each week to talk about my passion, which is sports betting, but he also lets me highlight San Xavier. So thank you.
Yep, I think that's we all want to make money. People that gamble want to make money. I know a lot of people listen to this segment that don't gamble. They just want to hear, different thoughts on games so they could talk around the water cooler about it and stuff. But to me, that's the most important part. And that actually shows how far the gambling has gone from, right? When I was a kid, if you got around anybody with gambling, your parents would shuffle you away, and then, or they wanted your credit card number. You had to call an 800 number to get stuff, and sleazy late night programming.
Barrier, man.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And then we've gone to the point now where we all have it on our phones if you're interested in it. We have it right at our text. And, the NBA earlier this year gets nailed with a big gambling scandal. They've been nailed with it before gambling was public, right, with the referees. Now they got an illegal poker scandal going on, guys giving information to people. And then now you get this UFC situation on a fighter last week where the money was thrown onto him right before the fight happens. Was thrown onto his opponent. They go in there and they do it. So it's good that everything, has gambling become too prevalent, right? Then you got the Penn situation where Penn just keeps failing everybody they get in. They failed with Barstool. They fail with ESPN now. Now they're going to the Score. They restrict betting. They do all of those types of stuff. Are we to the point where there's too much freedom in gambling? But it's also a good thing because this UFC situation, this NBA situation in the past wouldn't have been caught, because it would have been done in back channels and things to that effect, because it is so open now. That's how these things are getting caught. So I don't know, is there too much gambling out there? Is there too much sunlight on the sports right now with the gambling? With all these stories we're hearing?
No, I don't think so. What there is too much greed on the parts of the national purveyors, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the C's, all of them. And what do? They advertise the same game parlays.
Yes.
Not only do you not get to pick the 3 or 2 teams you want to put in a parlay, they pick them for you. If you picked them yourself, you'd get, let's call it just hypothetically 8 to 1. But if you take theirs, you can get 5.5 to 1.
Yeah. And then,
Well, how
and
good
then
is
you pay
that?
then you pay a big vig too, right? You're paying a fee on top of that
Well,
to them usually.
no,
as
because
well.
you're betting $1 to win $5. That's the allure of parlays. But as I tweeted earlier in the week, and you can check out on Twitter, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas did a 40-year study of all the books in Nevada, not in Vegas, in Nevada. And they found that in parlay bets, the house earns 30% profit on the bottom line. All other sports bets, the house earns 5%. So it should be no surprise to anybody that they're bombarding you on your phone, on the TV, every advertisement, same game parlay, same game parlay. They got all these celebs that they pay money to make it look glamorous and
Big money, too.
alluring to you, and they're just ripping your lips off. And so, there are... With the legalization of alcohol, there probably became a few more alcoholics. With the legalization of gambling, there's probably going to be a few more people get in trouble with it. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm the guy that's trying to slow you down. I say you don't have to bet every game. They've got to put a line on every game, but you don't have to bet every game. And for that reason, I'm not the best friend of the sports books. Because the sports books in June, July, and August, all they want to talk about is NFL to get you to bet on the NFL in those months where they got nothing going on. Now you tie up your money for months on a bet you had no shot winning in the first place. Okay, one or two of you win on an occasion, but really, I'm trying to be a voice of reason, tell people to shoot with a rifle, not a shotgun. And by that I mean take aim, study, trust your process, and shoot at one opportunity. To go into the saloon and just fill the thing with smoke and see what you shot is a sure recipe for a lack of success. But at the end of the day, it's not easy to beat the man. I'm going to try and help you do that, whether you follow me on my webpage or whether you follow me on Twitter. I give insights and I try and help. I also offer my gamblu.com email, lou@gamblu.com. If you're in a position that you don't know what to do, you got a future bet, you want to know how to monetize it, meaning I got 10-1 on this team and they're in the finals, what do? I'm here to help you. You know what I want for that? Nothing. I want to help you and see you win.
Yeah, it's no, that's what you do well, and that's what I said. That's why I wouldn't just have any person on here because
Thank you.
You get a lot of that. Even I'm not gonna lie to you. Even when I watch VSIN, sometimes some of those people, I'm just like, ugh.
Oh, believe me, there's
that guy gives me the EBGBs on what he's trying to do.
There's some. It doesn't matter what the platform is. When you hear them say,
Let's be clear on that.
2-team 6-point teaser. Well, 2-team 6-point teaser when I was starting in the business was even money. Okay, then it went to -110. You know what it is in Vegas today or at DraftKings? You go to a 2-team 6-point teaser, -140. Well, what they're saying is don't play teasers with us.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else. But people still want to play them. Okay, no problem. However, the person that suggests a 2-team 6-point teaser is completely irresponsible because the pricing has been jacked way out. Now, I suggest teasers, but I go to where the prices are. For instance, DraftKings has 3-team 10-point teasers, -120. What was that price last year? -120. What was the price 5 years ago? -120. So rather than eat the ridiculous juice that they're trying to get me to, I'm off 2-team 6-point teasers, and I'm to where I can win and gain at least some advantage on my money. At -140 for 2-team 6-point teasers, I'll get smart guys out here to show you in math that it don't make sense and you shouldn't be betting.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, you also do parlays, but you choose the parlays.
I choose the parlays, and
it's not the other stuff.
I don't want to say never, but there's no 3-team or 4-team parlays. It's 2-team, and they span different time zones. Why would I do that? Because if I take the money line on the yellow team at 8 a.m. and I take the money line on the green team at 8 p.m. on the Sunday night game, if I win the first one and I'm on the money line, and let's say the dog is getting 8 points, now I could bet the dog and try and get both. I can win 2. What could I lose? 10%. Why wouldn't I consider that?
Yeah.
I don't have to do it, but I have options. So there are cunning ways to beat them with their own tools. You just have to have some experience, and it doesn't hurt to I have mentors myself, guys in Vegas that we go eat pizza and talk about stuff all the time, and we share information and tactics, and that's really what a good gambler wants to do.
I mean, I was following your X feed. I was reading about this UFC thing. Should they have let that fight last Saturday night go on with the suspicions that everybody had that there was some nefarious things going on?
So the facts are that before, and this is a fight I had released. If they check my emails, I had Devalle to my clients plus 7.5 points on the points. I had them straight up at plus 215. We also had them at decision at 6 to 7 to 1 for a very small amount. We lose the small amount, but got cashed on the other.
You had the guy that the underdog that ended up winning.
I had the guy everybody was on, and they asked me on VSIN Tuesday, hey, did you know anything? I was like, I wish I did, because I would have sure bet a lot more. I knew nothing. I had no clue. But here's the key. And I talked to John Crouch at the MMA lab. He's like, Lou, I said, John, I feel like an idiot, because when I watched the fight, I didn't see anything that looked like he was throwing it or anything. And he told me specifically, Lou, I've had world-class athletes go out there. We're all ready after a full camp, and they go out, and for some reason, the lights don't turn on. He's like, I looked at that fight, and I didn't see anything either. I said, what about what Cormier and Chiesa were saying? And his opinion was really astute. He said they were tipped off, and I believe that to be the case. So here's what actually happened. Okay. The UFC has a monitoring entity. That monitoring entity is a third party, and they're reputable, and they're as good as they get.
They do it for a lot of sports.
Matthew Holt used to run it. I know Matthew Holt personally. He now runs another integrity company. That's the UFC's company. They flagged impropriety not only on the side of this fight, but first round underdog to win by finish. Now, you get an obscure fight like that, and all of a sudden there's a couple thousand here, 3,000 or 4,000. It sets off flags, and that's why you want legalized gambling, because these big sports books are monitoring impropriety. Mm-hmm. So they caught the impropriety. They went to Dana White. Dana White went to the fighter and his attorney. He called the fighter and the attorney before the fight, said, here's what's happening here, what's going on. They said, I'm going to kill him. There's nothing going on here. Okay, they let the fight go on. My biggest issue was, why would they let the fight go on after their monitoring company told them this? Because there's plenty of sports books that got the same info and took the fights down. Yeah. Well, the UFC thought they did their due diligence. They called the guy and his attorney. So Dana White is clean on this. Tennis, highlight, golf, UFC, not team sports, way easier to try and coax somebody. Mm-hmm. This kid Bulgarian probably made $5-6 grand for that fight. It's the last fight on his contract. He's probably knowing that he may not get signed again. So there's the temptation for this. And since then, others have said they've been approached. We'll have to be patient with this, like we need to be patient with the quarterback situation for the Cardinals and let the facts surface out. But at the end of the day, as bad as that is, especially for the UFC with this new deal in Paramount, I believe that the integrity of the UFC is intact. I believe that if you try and do this on them, they're gonna take you to the house. They're gonna prosecute you to every single level. They know how detrimental it is to them. However, this is not the issue that I have with the UFC, and it's come along at a perfect time. Why? Because it's cloaking the real problem. And the real problem, if you watched that fight card last week, was in the co-main event, where one man was awarded a finish. They stopped the fight. Then, after the fight was stopped and Elijah was awarded the win, they went to the tape and saw that it, in fact, was an accidental eye poke. Now they say, oh, wait, it's an eye poke. Now the fight ain't over. And they give 10 minutes to the guy that got his eye poked While
Costa.
Delegia over there sits there and gets ice cold waiting, wondering what's happened. They called him the winner, and then they make him fight again. The real issue is judging. The real issue is Dana White being such a strong individual that he can manhandle things and ramrod stuff to happen because he's a strong individual and nobody's going to question him. The issue in the UFC that has to be addressed has to be the fact that they make up the rules as they go, and they gotta have more stringent eye poke issues. Every coach I've talked to 3 or 4 of them. They're like, it should be 2 points right and it'll stop. Some teams, Gane, and who fights in Gane's gym? Imavov. Those are the absolute 2 poster boys for eye pokes. And you know why? Because they're probably told, listen, you poke the guy in the eye, you get tremendous advantage and nothing happens to you. They slap you on the wrist, say, don't do it again. Why wouldn't you poke guys in the eye? So, unfortunately, the Bulgarian timing is terrible because otherwise we'd be talking about this co-main event and the fact that we need to have rules in place that an organization sticks by, because you can't have a team get a touchdown and then they're getting lined up for the kickoff and they say, oh, wait a minute, we got to go run that back. We're going to go put the ball back down on the 6 because something happened. Now, there's got to be protocol.
Yeah, there's a time frame. Well, we saw this not with an eye poke, but we saw it a few weeks ago.
We've
where
seen it a ton.
The guy's arm went down and they stopped the fight with like a second to go, and then they went, "Oh no, no, you didn't win. We're going to continue the fight. Round was over." So we've seen it a couple times, and this is what's fascinating about it. And then this gambling thing comes out, and you're like, And then the thing that kind of bothers me as well, what you're talking about here with that eye poke, is then they rewarded it, right? Performance of the night as well, which means that they got bonused off of that fight. Cortez Acosta got bonused for that win on top of it with all that stuff going on. And, Dana, has a lot of power. Nobody's going to cross him, because if you cross him, you don't have a job. He's been clear about that in interviews over the years and stuff. And that's kind of what you got to kind of watch when you go to that side. But I've just been noticing, just in my eyes, let alone your eyes, who's familiar, even in my eyes, there's been a few things a lot lately where I'm like,
a lot this year. And let's not forget, they're owned by an entertainment company.
Yes.
They bonus people on finishes and violence. And so you know what they want. You see wrestlers, a guy like the guy Evloev. Well, he's a featherweight. Nobody's heard of him. You know why? He's a world-class wrestler, and they won't give him a shot because they don't want to see leg humping and rolling on the mat. They want to see 2 guys standing toe-to-toe breaking each other's eyeballs. And so God bless them. But, I'm going to have to handicap the UFC a little differently now because I need to be aware, like I was in boxing in the 80s, of who is going to give the organization the better opportunity for greater earning power in the next fight. That will have to come into my handicapping now. Am I saying it's fixed? Nope. Not saying that. I'm saying I need to be aware of who the fighter is that gives them the best opportunity in the next fight.
Yeah, and that's, that's as close to calling it fixed without calling it fixed.
Way to go, Steve. Way to go. I'm not afraid to call you out, and you should. I'm glad you said that because you're exactly right.
You're right up to that ledge at that point. And
way to go.
I'm not going to lie to you. As a casual guy, I watch some of these fights, and I even go,
You're scratching your head.
Like that, even it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, all right, maybe there's. Then I talk to you, and it's like, all right. So I even saw, the quote unquote improprieties or the ridiculousness of this, and people put money on this, and that's where you run into that danger. And everybody who knows, watch the shows, I've always questioned basketball, but I'm questioning football at times now, where it's like, there's no way that ref made that bad of a call and nobody is going, hey buddy, we all saw that didn't happen, right?
Yeah,
and then you're like, what is happening out there?
In the team sports, it's more refereeing than it is individuals. Yeah. And I have seen some questionable stuff in the NFL as well. I have buddies that are way more vocal about it than me, especially with this Kansas City thing and the allure to the young lady that Taylor Swift that Kelsey dates. And so here's what I'll say. We live in a society, an advanced society that is run and has dealt with capitalism. And you can go to Karl Marx, because in 1848, he wrote a book called Das Kapital that spells out to the T what happens in advanced states of capitalism. The guy was a genius ahead of his time. And so much of it predicts exactly how we're living today. And so what I'll say today is our society is completely reliant on money. And when there's money involved, don't be surprised that anything will happen.
Yes, absolutely. I'll just say this in terms of what you said. You know, you didn't call it rigged, but you walked up to that line, in my opinion. But I'll say this. Even in WWE wrestling, which you don't like, you know, you make fun of me for watching and stuff, but there are rules in that. If you don't get your shoulder up in time, and in an event that is scripted, if you don't get your shoulder up in time, they flat out tell you you will lose that match. In the big events like the Royal Rumble, if you accidentally fall out of the ring, you're eliminated. They don't put you back in there because you fell out. Even if you're the winner, they will change the winners. I'm only bringing that up to say that is scripted. That is, you know, kind of like like a soap opera. That is that type of stuff. But even they have rules that you have to do to follow. And it just, when you arbitrarily make them up as you go, which it does look like the UFC does at times, it's not a good look. And even the NFL at times, you're just like, remember, every time you hear like a new rule that nobody knew about, but somehow this referee knew it off the top of his head, you know, on the field. It just throws question marks into those events. You got to have integrity. Even if you don't like the results, you got to have integrity, and you got to call it consistent. And I think that's what the UFC is kind of running into right now. Especially with those eye pokes.
They need protocol. They need rules. They need to stick by them. They need deterrence. They need deterrence for missing weight. They need deterrence for eye pokes.
I think the weight loss thing is the most ridiculous. If you don't make weight, you don't fight. You don't get paid. You just wasted all your training money.
That's right, except for the fact that the UFC's counting on 4 fights. They have 3 hours scheduled with ABC, and they want to. The show must go on. You got that tug of war.
No, I get it, and that's just where. But if you were to call guys not allowed to fight, you miss the weight, you know, or just have some penalties. But there's got to be a specific standard to make guys do it. Because if you're going to train for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. All of that money, all of that stuff you're expending, travel time, and then you miss weight, and all of a sudden you're not fighting, you lose all that money, guys will start paying attention.
Yeah, mine would be if you're a 155-pounder, you get to 156. If you miss by 1 pound, meaning you're 157, then the penalty would be something.
Yeah.
But if you miss by more than a pound, meaning you come in 157 and a half, you automatically lose the fight. You can choose to compete if you would like to, but it's going on your record as a loss. And you know what?
Yeah, I like that.
That'll clean it up real quick.
Absolutely.
I'm a kid. I'm a dad that swatted my kids. Okay, not because I came home and I was upset, because they did something to earn it. And so after 1 or 2 swats, and here's the other thing. Sometimes they'd get 3-4 warnings, and then I'd finally have to swat them. Sometimes I'd just drop them. And they're thinking, my old man's half whack, man. I better not jack with him. So then we're in the shopping mall, and they're acting up. And I would go up to him, hey, Coley, you see all these people in here? Yeah. I said, they're going to watch me kick your ass right here if you don't stop doing that. It was all over, and the kid was right by my side because he knew there would be execution. And in today's age, we don't need to get off in this. There's less execution than half-cocked Italians.
Yes, the world has changed on that. Let's leave it at that. Absolutely.
Drop them. I see kids all the time. That kid needs to be dropped.
I think about that with my kids, where I go, my mom would have had me by the neck if you pulled that stunt with her.
I got my mouth washed out with soap and the wooden spoon.
Yeah,
and that was my mom. Then she'd say, wait till your dad gets home. And then it was trouble.
Exactly, right? So let's move away from last week and all that drama out there. We do have UFC Fight Night here this week in the Apex again. 2 Apex fights in a row, but there are some people that I recognize the names here coming up in this fight. Now, we did have one fight get canceled. McVeigh, right?
It's back on.
Same people?
He's at the MMA lab. He was originally supposed to fight Robert Valentin Valentin got hurt or got wise, knew he was going to get his ass kicked. And so now they brought in a kid that fought in last week's card, but he couldn't get cleared in Las Vegas. So now they brought in a third young man. His name is Reese. He fights out of Fortis in Texas, and he's a big favorite over our boy McKee. And I just haven't I've been able to do the research on the new fight because it was just announced yesterday.
I didn't realize that they went to basically the third person now that he's going to fight. He's an MMA lab guy too. So
McVeigh is. So, and I'm always quick to compliment the UFC on the fact that how adroit they are in being able to fill these other spots. Listen, the UFC does an awful lot right, but when they need criticism, I'm here to give it to them. Now, if this cheating thing got out of hand and it was in the favor, the fighters had advantage, and they could do something that would harm the UFC, I would be as vocal against the fighters as I am now when I see impropriety with the UFC. Why? Because I'm selfish and greedy. I want to see integrity in fight game because I love the fights.
Yeah, and I think we all just want to see integrity stuff out there, right? As we look into that. Miles John, Daniel Marcos is a prelim fight. We've seen Daniel Marcos a few times here. He's a 185 favorite going into this fight. Bantamweight bout here in the Apex, so small cage. I believe bantamweight's the smaller guys, right?
They are.
Into this. So Daniel Marcos, is this a fight that should be entertaining?
There's like 5 fights on this card that are just barn burners. Really? And if you look just at the lines, there's like one fight that's lined minus 400 or 500. The rest are all minus 165, minus 180. So they're all very, very competitive.
You normally don't get this in an Apex fight.
No, you don't.
Like, I look at this card and I go, recognize it. And usually on Apex, I'm like, Lou, tell me what to watch.
Yeah, they're trying to get guys fights to satisfy contractual obligations. Also, with the amount of contender series fighters that are coming in, new blood willing to fight for free, this is also an opportunity to take guys that have 4 or 5 fights at the end of their first 4-fight contract and they're 1-3.
Get rid of them.
They're fighting for their life. Why would they pay a guy $15,000 to show up and $15,000 to win when they can get Louis over here to come in, play for 5 and 5?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. And that's why we see way more obscure names on a lot of these fight cards because they're paying them squat. The foundational profit center for the UFC, where they differentiate over every other sports league, is the fact there's no union for their athletes, and they're literally, I wish I could use vulgar language, they're bending them over the fence and driving them home, baby. They are absolutely abusing their number one commodity, their athletes, and that's how they have such wild profit margin. And as long as Dana's there, that's what's going to continue to happen.
Continue to have that out there, right? So, well, I tell you what, prelims. I mean, you got, like I said, Daniel Marquez, you got Pennington.
So
and
let's
Gomes
go back to
the women's fights. So
let's go back to Marcos and Jones. You picked a great one there, by the way. 135ers, both 5'7", one's 31, one's 32. Marco's going to have 3-inch reach advantage over him. Marcos opens 300. He's down to minus 172. This is going to be a really competitive fight. 2.5 rounds is where it's listed, and the over's a billion to 1. So
380.
Probably going to go to decision here. So you pick your fighter that you like to win via decision. I got to think that, to me, I think Marcos has been in with better. I lean to him a little bit, but tough, good, competitive fight. Then we can go to we have Emil and Emmers. The last time we saw Hyder Emil, he was fighting Jose Delgado from the MMA lab. And Emil's an aggressive buzzsaw of a Tasmanian devil, and Delgado knocked him out with a knee to the face in the first round. I think Emil is on the bounce after that. Delgado's the real deal, even though he lost his last fight via somewhat dubious decision. Emil comes back for this fight at 145 pounds, facing a guy in Jamal Emmers that's long and tall and a solid mixed martial artist, but he's got a little tall man disease. And when I say that, the fact that he's so tall, his chin's out there for the littler guy to get up and hit relatively easy. This Emil is really, really aggressive, and I think he has an edge in this fight. He's a short favorite. I think he should be, and I think he's going to win the fight.
Minus 148 right now. Over under on this 2.5. The under is minus 195. Is that where that chin comes in?
I think so, because that leads me to believe in a finish, and I think I'm hard pressed to think that Emmers, that doesn't pack a lot of power, could finish Emil. I think rather it could be the other
way around. Just really on the women fight here. I've seen all four of these ladies. Probably looking at the odds here, over unders looks like probably decisions in these fight. Anything with Kalkovicki, Silver, Pennington, or Gomes in any of these women's fights?
Yeah, that Pennington Gomez, I would tell you to look on DraftKings that the fight ends in split or majority decision. You'll get a good price there because that fight's going to decision. You can flip a coin who's going to win. Yeah, almost the same thing for the next fight, although Kalkovicki, is that her name?
Yep.
No, that isn't her name. Her name is Cavalcante. And she fights. She fights.
Now that you say it properly, Lou, that's how you say it.
She's a Brazilian fighting out of Portugal.
Long,
tall, a lot of momentum, but she's stepping way up against Buena Silva. Buena Silva, you look at her record. Oh, she's lost her last 3.
Yeah.
Hasn't looked very good. Buena Silva is the meanest woman on the roster. She's a junkyard dog, and I believe she's very, very live in this fight.
Silver's a plus 210 going into this as well. Over under 2.5, minus 375 to the over in this fight with the ladies there as well. That's why I brought them up, because I recognize all 4 names of these ladies, which means you've talked about them and talked about them and that they can fight, and they're entertaining fighters out there.
So when we know that fight's going to go to a decision, I'll look at the points handicap. So 3 rounds. If I can get Buena Silva plus 5.5 at a plus number, I'll vomit all over that.
Yeah, right now it's plus 3.5, minus 165.
Yeah, they don't want you to take that because it could be a close decision.
Yeah.
So what I would do there is probably Buena Silva's plus 2 something. Maybe put a half unit on her and maybe put a full unit on the points. Because if she doesn't win straight up and gets jobbed on the decision, you'll win the big bet and it'll cover up your half bet. If she wins the fight, you win them both.
Then we got to go into the main card here. You got Christian Leroy Duncan, Marco Trulio here. These 2 guys battling out in a middleweight bout for these 2 guys.
Yeah, killer fight. Christian Leroy Duncan, ex-basketball player, 6'2", 79-inch reach. He's going to be 2 inches taller than Tulio, have a 5-inch reach advantage. He has to keep it on the feet and keep his distance. Tulio's got power. He's very, very aggressive, and I believe he's going to cut the distance on Christian Leroy Duncan and prove to Christian Leroy Duncan that, in fact, he should have been either a basketball player or remain a mid-level UFC mixed martial artist, because I think Tulio has advantage here, despite the fact that he's giving away a little height and reach. I don't think this fight stays standing. I think if Tulio can get it to the ground, it's all over.
And then next up, we got Ricky Simon and Barcelos.
Simone and Barcelos. And again, in another 135-pound wing ding. This is going to be a great fight. Barcelos, a Brazilian, they're probably a push if they're grappling or wrestling. On the feet, Ricky Simon they've both been in with great competition, both enter on wins. Simon might have a little bit better striking. This is going to be an absolute barn burner of a fight, and it's too close for me to call, to be quite honest.
That means it's a good fight.
You want to watch it, yeah.
Definitely tune in for that. Chris Padilla, and then against Bonfim. Here, we saw Ishmael Bonfim not too long ago, if I remember correctly.
No, that was his brother Gabriel, who's on the main event, and we'll talk about him shortly. So both Bonfim brothers are on this card. Brazilian mixed martial artist. Izzy is the more complete, meaning he's more well-rounded, very aggressive, got hands, strikes, good on the ground. The problem is he's facing a long, tall kid in Padilla that comes in with some momentum. This should be a good fight. They have it penned. They want Bonfim to win. He's a decent favorite here. We'll see if Padilla can upset the apple cart here. I'm not really that focused on this fight.
The interesting thing is over under 2.5, minus 120 to the over, minus 110 to the under here. Lightweight bout, not probably. If I had a guess, not a knockout scenario, more of a submission scenario in this.
Yeah, I think it's indicating maybe Bonfim, and Bonfim could do it either way. So
okay, so
it's
there's the
indicating
power to
both.
knock him out. Okay, and then you got Salikov, and then Medic.
That's right.
Medic?
Uros Medic from Serbia, the doctor is his nickname, fighting Salikov, the Kung Fu Panda.
I watch a
which
lot of
they
movies
call him.
about Serbians in that part of the country and medics. If you know what movies I'm talking about, didn't mean to interrupt you, Lou, but
I
those
don't.
those medics are scary.
So Salikov will be shorter. He's 9 years the older fighter at 41. That should give you a tip. He's got a shorter reach, but man, the dude keeps winning. He's tough. He's durable. I give him a slight edge over this Medic, but I'm not going to bet the fight because it's hard for me to take a 41-year-old against a 32-year-old.
That's a big age difference,
Huge.
especially once you hit 40. It's like my brain does not process a 40-year-old fighter against a young kid and going in there and doing it. But, these guys fight for a living,
especially when they're 150, 70 pounds or less. When they're 85, 205 or heavyweight, you can get away with being heavier or older because the power don't leave you. But 41-year-old 135-pounder can't keep up with 30-year-old 135-pounder.
Matt Schnell and Joseph Morales here battling out. Two United States guys going at it at the Apex.
Yeah, Schnell has a balsa wood beak. That's for Dale. He can't take a hit. He's lost his last three. He lost his last three. Then he retired. Came out of retirement, fought a guy named Jimmy Flick who can't beat a 3-year-old girl. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't be so disrespectful to Flick. But he's got no striking game whatsoever. He's got a little bit of a submission game, and he and Schnell are both submission guys. Schnell, like I say, balsa wood beak. Jimmy Flick couldn't get to it. But this kid, Morales, a Mexican fighter, second stint in the UFC. The dude's got power, he's got might, and he's on the bounce getting his second shot. This is a setup fight here. We took Morales earlier in the week. In fact, it's written up on the Gamblu webpage. Morales via KO, DQ, or submission is minus 105, or it was when we released it.
Yeah, and he's minus 395 as a favorite.
So we're taking him to finish the fight.
Yep, and then you got the brother Gabriel Bonfim. I recognize him as well, and then Randy Brown here for the welterweight bout main event here coming up Saturday night. By the way, 5 p.m. main card here, so 1 p.m. 2 p.m.
because of
forget the
daylight
time
savings
change.
time. Crapola.
So 2 p.m. Here coming up at 5 p.m. Our time this Saturday night.
Yeah, this is the younger of the Bonfim brothers. He is probably got a better trajectory towards top 10 than the brother, but he's more singularly dimensioned. He's primarily a grappler submission guy. That's decent power on the feet, but against Randy Brown, who's going to be taller, longer, and 6 years older, Brown has the striking, but the cat and mouse here will be if Brown keeps this fight standing, he's going to knock out or win this fight. If Bonfim gets Brown down and Brown goes to his back, he's incapable. He's like a turtle. He can't get up. And that'll strongly swing the fight into the Bonfim favor. That's another fight I wrote up on the webpage. I know I like Randy Brown in this spot. I like him because he's been in with better. He has better UFC experience, and I think he's going to be able to keep this fight standing and use his length and his power to finish Bonfim.
Plus 145 dog going into this fight against Bonfim. Now, when you say, just really quick, when you say, they have to keep it standing, if there is a takedown, do you also judge it to where if he gets taken down, then it's just, just hold on for dear life? Or is it one of those where you get taken down and if he gets out of it quickly, you're okay with that takedown? Or is it just he has to avoid it altogether? That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So the guy that gets taken down has to get out of it quickly and it's less effect, right?
Yeah, so if
a guy can't get out of it, if
yeah.
We've seen him get taken down and he can't do anything, then he can't get taken down. Brown can't get taken down.
Okay.
Okay?
He's one of those.
got to keep it standing.
All right. That's
Now,
what I was
because
just
if
wondering
he
what
gets
degree
taken
there
down in the
is.
first round, I'm like, and I'm watching the fight like this because I know what an underhook is or a whizzer. I know what he should do, and that's what I'm doing in my chair. And I spend 5 minutes trying to get the guy to do what's right to stand up. He can't. So at the end of the round, he's tired, the other fighter's tired, and I'm gassed.
Lou's worn out on top of it. Lou's got to go get orange slices and a Capri Sun during the end of the
I mean, I
rounding.
do. I mean, I'm sure people watch these fights and they're doing that. It's not with the striking; it's with the grappling. Get that leg around. Get that other hook in. Come on.
Geez. Let's take our quick break here. Come back with Uncle Lou here with NFL talk as well. Big week in, trade deadlines happen. Don't know if that's moving any lines. I doubt it, but we'll talk about it. And NFL picks this week as well. So come on back. The main event Thursdays with Uncle Lou. And we're back here. Main event, Uncle Lou on Thursday. Whew. Getting through all of this stuff. UFC talk. I'm getting worn out with all this gambling controversies out there. We talked about that earlier as well. Lou, NFL this weekend. You said you put out a little bet earlier this week or today or something.
I take a weekly position or spot with Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis on the VSIN network each Friday morning. And I've been giving 3-team 10-point teasers out, and I'm 3-0 on them or 4-0 on them so far this year. I didn't do one last week, but I did do one this week. I did it earlier in the week and gave it to them, and I want to share it here. So here's how that one looks. Giants Bears under 58.5. Now, if you look at that line now, I think that line is closer to 57, and that's because there's going to be some pretty decent wind in Chicago, and that number opened 47, went up to 48.5. Now it's coming back down because most people look at wind on Tuesday, Wednesday. Uncle Louie looking at it Sunday, Monday. And you know why? Because these weather reports are so good. And if I want to know what's going to happen in Chicago Sunday, I just look at Omaha on Friday night or Saturday because that's the way it moves.
What did you say it was at? The over-under on the Giants Bears?
The one I took was 58.5.
46.5 right now.
Yeah, and it's dropping like a hammer in a lake. So if you're going to take this teaser, you best not wait around. Then the next leg, Broncos plus a half. And so the current line on the Broncos, again, I take these early in the week to try and get ahead. If you're at FanDuel, it's 8.5.
Yep.
So now you get 1.5 with the Broncos. If you shop anywhere else, you're only getting 1 or a half, like I did. And then the final leg, we go all the way down to the Monday night game, and we're gonna look at the Packers, who are given 2.5 right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we get 10 points there. Now they're getting 7.5. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. 2.5 against those Eagles.
And I would say I like the Packers straight in that game, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Do we know Saquon's availability yet with that groin injury? I haven't heard anything. I didn't look it up. I don't know if that's affecting that line at all. And Packers are just a team that plays with their competition. When they play a good team, they play really well. When they play a bad team, they play down to that level. And that's just kind of where we are. And obviously Eagles are a good team out there, and they've made some trades to help out their defense. So we'll see that come out this week as well. And you said you do like the Pack straight up. I
like the Pack here, and for the exact reason you said. Everybody's convinced that they're sluggish and play to their competition. Mm-hmm. Okay, you guys believe that. I'm going to believe that they're in a good spot at home and ready to rock and roll. And as far as Philadelphia is concerned, I got no practice report yet here for today, so I don't really know how he's sitting. Usually Friday afternoon and then Saturday mornings, I spend a lot of time looking at.
Well, being a vet too, I guarantee with the groin, he probably didn't even see the field Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like you said, it'll probably be Friday for him. Being a veteran, look, you just hand the ball off to him. He knows what to do with it, so he doesn't need a practice.
Running game's been a little bit sluggish this year, and I don't know, a groin. I'd want to give a guy plenty of time with that. That's just
what I mean. Yeah.
As far as Philly is concerned, where the heck are they? They're on Monday night against Green Bay. What doesn't fit here? Green Bay, DVOA, 6th ranked offense. Mm-hmm. Pretty good. Green Bay defense, 8th ranked DVOA. Not only is Green Bay good on offense, they're good on defense, and they're balanced. Philadelphia, 7th ranked offense. Pretty good. Philadelphia, 18th ranked defense. There's the red light, guys. There's the red light, and that's why I like Green Bay.
Yeah, they added a couple guys on that defense, but not enough to move that needle, right? They're not going from 18th to 1st ranked defense.
We'll see. We'll see how all the new chemistry works out. I mean, here's Jerry Jones, believing that he, just turned water
trades.
into wine, and all he did was turn poop into moist poop.
Everybody's questioning those trades that the Cowboys did.
He is a joke.
Let's just stay with the night games here. Sunday Night Football, Steelers, Chargers in this one as well. Chargers right now 3-point favorites at home in Los Angeles. Steelers are 5-3, and I am just not impressed with the Steelers defense right now, as I be the fanboy here, and Lou's going to shoot me down in a minute. But then I'm also not impressed with that Steelers offense right now either. They're 5-3. You're going to probably give me some stats to blow me out of that water. I like the Chargers with a 3-point favorite in this game, but tell me why the Steelers are probably the play here.
Well, I don't know that I can tell you that. I will say this. The Steelers are +9 in the turnover ratio, and there should be no mystery why they're doing well. When you look at Chicago's doing well. They lead the league in
+13.
turnover ratio. Yeah. Okay, so I track that stuff. But when I look at this battle, and I love Harbaugh, and I want to like him, but there's just one thing that don't set very good here. The way to attack Pittsburgh is to run at them, and Chargers have running back issues and the 17th ranked rushing attack. Yeah. So they may not be set up to fully take advantage of that. Meanwhile, the Chargers defense is 27th against the run. The only aptitude that Pittsburgh has is their rush offense, 5th ranked in the NFL. Pittsburgh going to run this ball right down their throat for 60 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't know the Chargers defense was that bad against the run. With what they have coming at them.
That's why I do these DVOAs. It takes me.
Yeah, look at this, folks.
Probably it's hard to see.
Yeah,
here
it doesn't come up on there.
Chicken scratch in different colors because I'm an old codger.
The camera's
but believe
like,
me, I break it down.
Up.
I got each team's offense, defense, and what they do on the run against the run or as a runner, and what they do as a passer or against the pass. It gives me a great picture as to how I believe the game could go.
If I'm going to use a term that a lot of gambling guys use, I'm going to give you the lock of the week.
Yeah, and anybody that says that with me, I walk out of the room.
No, that's right, being sarcastic. The Lions-Commanders game this week. And all I'm saying here is Lions come off a bad loss. Commanders obviously have a quarterback issue. Marcus Mariota is their future right now because of the elbow issue to Jaden Daniels. Going into this, Lions are 8.5-point favorites, though, into this. I don't know if I think the Lions want to come out angry and that stuff from that perspective. But 8.5-point spread does make me look at that a little bit, Lou.
8.5-point spread.
They're faves, yep.
Right, and that look ahead was Detroit 3.5.
Yeah, it's moved a lot.
It's gone up 5 points. So the 5 points is explained how? Well, the quarterback for Washington, young McDaniels, is that his name?
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels. Yep. He's out. So is there 5 points difference between Daniels and
that's my
the
question.
Quarterback? Yeah, and my answer is absolutely effing no. No. Mariota's good quarterback.
Yeah.
But they got some skill people problems in Washington as
McLaurin
well.
still can't find the field.
Detroit +6 on the turnovers. The one thing that makes me hesitate here is that Washington's 3-6 against the spread. And so usually when you have a team that's really poor against the spread or really hot against the spread, somebody 7-2 against the spread, I'm looking to fade them because I know the bookmakers want all those teams to be 8-8 at the end of the year. They don't want 13-3 and 3-18. They don't want that because it becomes too predictable. So it's a game I have mismatch written on because it looks like Detroit's going to just mash potato this team.
Yeah.
But maybe not a game that I want to get too involved in. If I had to, would I look at maybe taking a tease of Detroit and taking them from 8 to +2? Yeah, I'd rather find other games.
Okay. No, that's why I was asking you.
Plus
'Cause like
2
you said,
doesn't help you that much.
No.
If I can get to
Yeah.
plus 3 on the other side, now I got that 16% going for me.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk about that game is because the perception is Lions coming in mad. Washington has their issues that they have, and 8.5-point favorite. I'm just like that spread's the thing that keeping me from going. Oh, the Lions are going to dominate this game with that 8.5. So interesting. We got some great games here in this. Rams 49ers battling it out. Rams coming into this game are 4.5-point favorites right now. Coming into this game, division foes. 49ers banged up beyond belief. So we don't know if they're getting some of those guys back this week as well. Division matchup tells me it's probably going to be a low-scoring affair between these teams. What say you, Lou?
Yeah, everything would tell me going into it that I really like San Fran. Let's remember that when these two teams played the first time in L.A., San Fran came in all injured and beat up, and the Rams were the easiest pick, and everyone went down with the Rams because San Francisco schnockered them.
Yep.
And these two coaches are good friends. Initially, I like San Francisco in the thing. However, the Rams got revenge. This is a divisional game. And lastly, the Rams 6-2 against the spread. I just got done saying they like to even those out. So this could be, again, division game. A lot of hatred between these two. Yeah, on paper it looks all LA, but it may not be that way.
Okay. Perfect. And let's talk a little bit about our local team coming off that Monday night victory. The quarterback controversy's been settled, at least publicly. I think it's been settled in the locker room for a couple weeks, as we've talked to Dale about that. Seahawks, in my eyes, as a fan's eye, not a gambling eye, Seahawks are, if not one of the best, they're one of the best teams in the league, if not top 2 or 3 teams in the league. Especially with Sam Darnold coming off a perfect game last week in terms of stats. That front seven's one of the best in the world right now. From that side, and then you got your Cardinals, who offense looks better, defense is there as well. Lou, right now, Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites coming in this game. Division game. Arizona, in my eyes, plays in Seattle very well. This game will be close. I like the Cardinals plus 6.5 in this going into this game. What says you though, Lou?
Yeah, I maybe lean under here a little bit. Both defenses are decent. Arizona with the 10th, Seattle with the 2nd. And again, that Seattle team via DVOA is jumping off the charts at the guy that does DVOA. And what we have to look at is Arizona's 25th ranked rush offense and 22nd ranked pass offense going against the 2nd ranked Seattle defense and the 4th via the pass. The good news is that the Cards defense sets up well against a Seattle offense that really wants to beat you by 3, but they just picked up Secure from New Orleans to add to their wide receiver room, which makes that Smith and Jigba even more viable. So I think this is a pass for me, though Seattle's 6-2 against the spread, and if that number were to hit 7, and I believe it will, then I could get interested.
Yeah, the right now, it's minus 6.5 Seahawks, minus 115. So it's leaning toward that 7, correct? Going that way at least.
That's right. So all we got to do is just be patient and wait till Sunday morning. And
there might be rain showing up for this game. I think I had heard that earlier today. Rain doesn't. It's just wind that matters.
Wind, baby, wind. As windy as I am, that's what the games we're looking for. And we talked about wind in one game. What was it?
Bears game.
That's right. There we go. Yeah. And that's where my under is.
Here's the what about an indoor team that plays in good weather like Arizona going into the rain? That doesn't worry you at all? That doesn't factor in at all? I get Seattle will play in the rain. Not at all? Okay.
If it's Miami, it will, because they're a bunch of cupcakes.
I loved how you did that from that perspective. Lots of big games this week, as you talked about that Bears game as well. Buccaneers, Patriots. The thing I have a question for you on the Patriots is, a lot of people jumping on their bandwagon lately. Right now, it's a 2.5-point spread favors the Buccaneers. Has that line moved at all this week, or was it right in that same area? Because I get the impression from all the morning shows, whatever, everybody's jumping on this Patriots Drake May bandwagon here these last couple weeks.
Yeah, Tampa's 2.5, and the look ahead was 2.5. This line hasn't budged
So it
a
hasn't
bit.
done anything. Okay.
But Tampa's pretty dinged up, to be quite honest, and New England's playing relatively healthy, except for Ramondre Stevenson, who's a little dinged up at running back. When I look at this one, the mismatch is Tampa's 15th ranked pass offense, led by Baker Mayfield, who's really good, and they got that wide receiver whose name I will mispronounce. Going up against the 28th ranked pass defense for New England.
Yeah.
I mean, Baker could have a good day throwing the ball all around the yard. Meanwhile, New England can't run the ball, but Drake May's been good at quarterback, yet they're facing a Tampa defense 5th against the run, 7th against the pass. Yeah. At 2.5, Tampa seems somewhat attractive as well. The New England 6-3 against the spread, yet Tampa +7 in turnover ratio. I have an easy time considering Tampa in this game.
Oh, perfect for that type of a game. See, I went into that looking at the Patriots, and you went the opposite on me. I like it. I like that perspective. The other game that I had a big question about coming into this game was Ravens-Vikings. Here, 4.5-point favorite for the Ravens. Obviously, Lamar's back. That offense is doing what it does. Ravens defense, I believe, at least on my eye test, has improved. They're not world beaters now, but they weren't as bad as they were to start the season. I don't know if the DVA shows that at all. But J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings just somehow finds a way to win when he's in the game and playing for J.J. McCarthy. And they're 4.5-point dogs. The Vikings are. Tell us about this game.
Yeah, and that was 3.5 a week ago. Now 4.5. So we're seeing some Baltimore love. I'm not sure I buy it. I'm nervous that they're 3-5 against the spread because they've stunk up the joint, and they do have Lamar back. But Minnesota defense is still pretty strong, 15th, 9th against the run. They plug up Derrick Henry and force Lamar to have to pass.
Bro.
That's the recipe for success for Minnesota. That line, again, went from 3.5 a week ago to 4.5, so they're betting Baltimore, and this game happens to be in Minnesota.
Yep.
I might have to take a look at Minnesota.
Yeah, it's just I don't want to give him any credit, but you have to. J.J. McCarthy doesn't have a great game, and then he's just there at the end winning the game, and it's just this kid has a special it factor to it, at least early on in his career.
Minnesota treated him just like they're treating Kyler Murray here in Arizona for a while. So he only had one super. If he has another super game against Baltimore, okay, I might start to believe. Let's see what happens.
All right, and then the last game that I have for you here that just really quick to throw at, Colts-Falcons, and I'm asking you about this game. Falcons have just been utter disappointment this year. Quarterback injuries in and out. Kirk Cousins is, Michael Penix is back. Kirk Cousins back on the sideline. But I want to look at this from the Colts' perspective, adding Sauce Gardner from the Jets into this defense going into this week. That's obviously, hopefully, assuming so, it's going to affect that Colts DVOA and that good defense that they've had this year.
It will after their bye week, and they go on the bye week after this week.
Okay.
He won't play this week.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see him playing. Why would they jeopardize him when they can
get him out there,
get him on the shelf? And Indy can play the opponent. And
well,
Atlanta,
by the way, this is a Berlin game as well.
Berlin
so this
at
is
6:30.
Overseas. I should say that as well. Yes.
Yeah. So while Indy's
7:30 our
it's a
time
home
now.
game for Indy, they're traveling just the same as Atlanta.
Yes.
Defense travels. Indy 6-3 against the spread. Are they due for a clunker? Maybe. Atlanta +4 in turnover ratio. I think that the mismatch here is the offensive line for Indy and the run game against the 24th ranked rushing defense for Atlanta. Atlanta's pass defense is great, but their rush defense is pretty shoddy. So tough game, a lot of points. If it gets to 7, and it opened at 7 on Sunday after being
Really?
6.5 in the look-ahead line, it's still 6.5 everywhere you look right now. We'll see what happens, but if anything, I tend to lean to Atlanta a little bit there to cover the game, maybe not win.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you have more faith in Atlanta than I do. Now, traveling overseas, Berlin's not an easy, London's an easy flight. Berlin's not an easy flight. It's a couple hours longer, and stuff to that effect. So we'll see.
Yeah, remember, when you go to the water cooler and you tell them the game and they laugh the hardest, that's your winner, and Atlanta could easily be one.
All right, perfect. Lou, on Thursdays, as always, I appreciate you joining us again, Lou, this week.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next week on Thursday as well. For everybody, thanks for joining us here as well. Always a spirited time here with everybody. Appreciate it. Really quick here. Robert says, so we should expect to see Caden Slovis after Jonah blows a block or two and gets Brissett hurt. Yes, that's your backup, folks. Caden Slovis, local product here. Bounced around in college as your backup quarterback. And then he says, just a little conjecture. He says conspiracy. But this could be a 3-year plan to move on from Kyler, meaning what the Cardinals are doing. I'll say this. They gave him every opportunity to perform in this offense, and he wasn't able to do it, whatever the reason was. That's why I'm okay moving away from Kyler, because he just hasn't performed this year.
Well, what you and Robert think, while I respect, I don't think that has much bearing on what the Cardinals are going to do. So I'll, if you don't mind, Robert, wait and see what the Cardinals do in this situation.
Lou, when you're not here, we're an opinion show. We have to throw our opinions out there.
I get it, but that's why you have me here, so
Yes.
that I can try and
You
be
bring back us. Yeah.
I wouldn't say a voice of reason. I would just say maybe an opposing
No,
view.
you bring us back to a reality instead of us being out on that ledge. You kind of pull us back in with the other side.
And remember,
That's why we love having you.
a good handicapper runs 54, 55%. That means 45% of the time I'm wrong, so just understand.
So, Lou, appreciate it as always. Everybody else, McCollum on Business coming up at 11. I'll see you then. Of course, YouTube page for this. We'll have the interviews out with Mike Sheehan and Lou also on that page in the interview section. So catch those as well. And we'll see y'all tomorrow, folks. Have a great Thursday night.